Oh, wow. Wow. Will Smith just smacked the shit out of me.
You probably have all seen or heard this clip from the Oscars when Hollywood A-list actor Will Smith slapped comedian Chris Rock in the face live on air during the Oscars telecast last month, and then he stormed back to his seat swearing because Rock had made a joke about Smith's wife, Jada Pinkett Smith, and her bald head. She suffers from a skin disease known as alopecia. It's an autoimmune skin condition that makes clumps of hair fall out, and there is no cure. It's a disease that's also personal for Rabbi Joshua Corber of Toronto. He was diagnosed with it 5 years ago. Until now, he hasn't talked publicly about it, but Corber feels people need to look at the lessons in the Torah at this time of year that speak about the causes of this skin disease and about body shaming, and also about the larger issue of the Oscar slap, that evil speech can lead to much worse things like anti-Semitism and violence.
These things start with words, right? And then the Holocaust is a great example. Like words can launch wars and spark genocide, and that's why the rabbis put lashon hara, right? Using the faculty of speech injudiciously, they equate that to murder.
I'm Ellen Besner, and this is what Jewish Canada sounds like for Wednesday, April the 6th, 2022. Welcome to the CJN Daily, sponsored by Metropia. Last week, Rabbi Joshua Corber prepared a sermon about the Oscar slap and then delivered it to his congregation in synagogue on the Sabbath, and then he posted it on his Facebook page along with a close-up picture of his own alopecia scalp with missing patches of hair. Scientists say about 147 million people around the world have this condition. Corber is 39. He says he didn't go public in order to get sympathy, but instead to share some important lessons about the Jewish concept of lashon hara, or malicious speech, and about kindness. Coming up, we'll hear his advice for the Hollywood set. But first, here's what's making news elsewhere in Canada right now.
I'm Linda Frum in Toronto, and this is what Jewish Canada sounds like.
Classical music fans are still sharing tributes today for renowned Canadian orchestra conductor and composer Boris Brott. He was killed yesterday by a dangerous driver in Hamilton, where he lived. Brott was hit by a car while walking on a sidewalk on Tuesday morning. The driver then fled the scene, and police say a 33-year-old man has since been arrested. Brott was 78. He was originally from Montreal. He came from a legendary musical family, and Brott himself was a child prodigy on the violin, although he never liked being called that. His mentor was Leonard Bernstein. Brott took the reins of the Montreal Classical Orchestra, which his parents founded. He later conducted the Hamilton Philharmonic. He founded the Brott Music Festival in that city. And he conducted many orchestras around Canada and around the world, and he even performed several times at the Vatican. The chair of the board of the Montreal Classical Orchestra, Deborah Corber, said in a statement that, quote, "The entire OCM family is in a state of disbelief. Boris Brott was the beating heart of the orchestra, a renowned leader in the world of classical music in North America and beyond, a mentor to countless young musicians, and a very dear friend to so many." And I sat down with Rabbi Joshua Corber for our interview at his Beit Rayim synagogue in Vaughan, Ontario. The whole issue of his wife's medical condition became something that people didn't know about before, and now it's like COVID. Everyone's an expert, right? But for you, this was also personal.
I quickly became nauseated by all the conversations and all the different hot takes that people were having on it. And one of my friends, who is a rabbi, posted that knowing when your voice is not needed is an important part of discernment. So I didn't really comment on it. And then I kind of saw a confluence of things. You know, I obviously have alopecia, and but in the Torah portion for that week, last Saturday, we were looking at Parshat Tazria, right, which deals with skin diseases. And the rabbis teach in the Midrash that skin diseases erupt on a person as punishment for lashon hara, for using our faculty of speech injudiciously or to cause injury to other people. From a Jewish perspective, it goes without saying that hitting a person is wrong. We learn that many parshiot earlier in the book of Exodus, that if a person strikes another person, that person is liable for all kinds of damages to the other person. But at the same time, publicly humiliating a person, particularly because of their physical appearance, is also considered quite odious in the Jewish tradition. So I wanted to use the fact that I have alopecia. I saw it as an opportunity to teach what I thought was really important Torah for the moment.
So maybe you can walk us through a little bit about how you first got this condition and how was the diagnosis, what was your age, things like that.
This was, I want to say, I guess it was about 5 years ago, because I remember that my daughter was months old at the time, and my wife one day noticed, hey, there's a little spot. It was tiny. It was almost not noticeable. Tiny little spot on the top of your head that doesn't have hair, just bald there. And I looked into it, and I found out that it was alopecia, and from everything I could tell, this is the body's reaction to stress, and it was a very stressful time. But what's weird is that I feel like in some ways my life is less stressful now, and it's gotten horribly worse.
To be frank, you've just led a congregation through 2.5 years of COVID, Zoom, personal problems, that all your congregants have gone through, death, grieving, I don't know. I would say that there's a lot of stress, plus environment, plus being a shepherd of Jewish community in these last 3 years of anti-Semitism. I think you may be that
I think I'm
people would consider that's a very stressful
maybe
time.
I'm downplaying a little bit of the stress. I used to joke when I first came to Toronto, and folks kind of noticed that the alopecia was noticeable by then. I said, "Oh yeah, that's from my previous congregation."
So, is there no cure for it? Is there no treatment? What do your doctors tell you?
Well, the doctors they send you to a dermatologist. And the dermatologist will inject the areas that are bald with, it's very painful, with corticosteroid, which sort of block what the body's doing to itself, because it's white blood cells apparently attacking hair follicles. So the corticosteroids can block that. The problem is you have to keep going back and back and back and back, because something a naturopath once said to me, you can't clean out a blocked sink, when the faucet is still running, right? So if the underlying cause is still there, which evidently it is for me, it's very, very difficult to treat.
And so how do you deal with it? And you're a human being, a man, vanity, whatever. How has that been to navigate that?
It bothers me, but I've sort of come to accept it, that it doesn't seem to be something I can change. And when I posted my Devar Torah, I wasn't sharing that story to kind of be like, oh, this is my problem, and this is part of my healing journey, is to speak about this to the world. Like it really wasn't. Like to me personally, like I was the least important part of the story that I was telling.
Lashon Hara is one thing, but is that about kindness and awareness?
I think it's the same as anything, right? Like if someone was, some individuals are morbidly obese, and they hate being stared at all the time, and they hate being judged all the time, and then others have other things that they're ashamed about with their appearance. And I would like to see a world where everyone is just much more sensitive with the things that they say about people, whether it's in their presence or behind their backs. And I always grew up being told that no matter what you think of a person's character, no matter how bad things they did, talking about their appearance and making fun of their appearance is off the table.
So have you suffered from any of that as well? Stigma? That people say things or point or kids or
No,
misunderstand?
I don't. I really haven't gotten. I haven't felt the negative attention. The worst part for me is when I go to the barber, because I do have some hair that I kind of try to do something with, and I sit there and I'm just like, I don't know. Just do what you can to kind of make it look sort of better. And when they show me the back, right? They take the mirror and they show you how it looks in the back. I'm like, oh, it looks like that, right? So, but I don't have to see the back of my head most of the time, right? It's when I see a photo of myself that's taken from the back, or or a mirror like that. That's a hard moment for me to know that I look like that. But I guess I put a lot more stock in other aspects of my identity, including other aspects of my appearance that I just, try not to worry about it.
Kippah wearing helps too, right?
Well, the kippah, so some people...
Or maybe that's a bad thing. I don't know, because it rubs or something.
Right, some people have suggested that the kippah is actually causing it, which it could be, and then that becomes a bit of a conundrum for me, right? What do you do? So oftentimes I'm going to not wear a kippah because... it might be causing it, or maybe I have to get it. Maybe I'm allergic to the material. I don't know. This is a lifelong kind of thing I'm going to have to deal with now.
Did you send your speech to anyone? Did you send it to Will Smith, or did you send it to Chris Rock or the Oscars? Like, where do you think they should go from here?
I mean,
could they learn something from what you said?
I think both of them are going to have plenty of access to, life lessons learned from that moment. I don't think my voice is needed in the overarching cultural conversation, except what I ended up saying in that Devar Torah, which is that we all need to be just very mindful of the way we speak to people, because malicious speech and hurtful speech is the same as violence.
What consequences do you think should be considered for what happened?
I lean far more towards restorative justice than punitive and retribution. I think that individuals should do tshuva. That's what I think the consequences are going to be, what they're going to be. Hollywood looks like they are distancing themselves from Will Smith. I don't think they're taking a moral position. I think they're doing the best they can to hedge public opinion and make the most money. Right? I don't think anyone that's pretending to stand on a moral high ground actually is.
Look what they did with Mel Gibson. He's rehabilitated, right? And he's the biggest anti-Semite there is, and he's making movies again. It took a while. He had to go to timeout for a bit, right?
This is even though it has a lot of personal and cultural significance for a lot of people, this moment at the Oscars, and especially for people who care a lot about Hollywood and believe that there's some sort of like moral thing going on in Hollywood. There are just so many bigger fish to fry, and there's so many people for whom there should be consequences happening that are not.
And that's what Jewish Canada sounds like for this episode of the CJN Daily, sponsored by Metropia. Integrity, community, quality, and customer care. You can read Rabbi Corber's complete speech. The link is in our show notes. Today's listener shout-out goes to Mel Cederbaum of the Workmen's Circle Arbeiter Ring organization in Toronto. And we'll end the episode with this little clip from a news conference that was held Tuesday in Ottawa for Genocide Awareness Month. Jewish leaders joined with other ethnic and religious groups who've been subjected to genocides, including Rohingyas and Uyghurs and Yazidis and Armenians, and now the Ukrainians who are saying that what's happening in their country should be considered genocide. The Center for Israel and Jewish Affairs' Shiba Birhanu urged the federal government to do more to stop online hate, to get media giants accountable for hateful content, and to change the paperwork requirements to make it easier for refugees to come to Canada.
I'd like to say that after the Holocaust, the world promised never again. We failed miserably. We can do more, we need to do more, and we must do more. The 3 proposals we laid out are concrete things that Canada can do to make a difference. It will not solve or prevent everything, but it would be a concrete beginning. After all, as the Talmud says, you are not obligated to complete the work, but neither are you free to desist from it.